But these are my 3 key aims for the year, and I'm going to break through them slowly and then kind of round them up at the end. Okay, so my first point is to make welfare and diversity more accessible. Everybody knows that people sometimes tend to look at welfare and diversity, or they have done in previous years, as anti-fun, against men and handing out free condoms all the time, which is definitely not what we're about. So one of the key things that I want to do this year is making sure that, as well as challenging these misconceptions, we're making the section more accessible for absolutely everybody. So the ways that comes down to is by having a general brand shift. So making sure that we're moving attitudes from the fact that we focus on minorities to the fact that we focus on majorities just as much. So I want the international student who's here for a semester to feel just as involved as the white sporting middle class male who is the majority student on this campus. As well as this, having a student activities presence. So obviously I'm in the Society's office with the lovely Northern Irish Jenna. I was at the Student Activities Bazaar this year. That is the first massive tick in that box, because people are categorising involvement in the Students' Union as strong as societies with welfare and diversity. They're aware that there are things they can get involved with, things they can volunteer with, and practical actions that they can do, such as developing campaigns and things like that. As well as this, town student engagement. Now I'm sure you're probably going to hear this across a lot of the presentations you're going to get this evening, because it's a big pillar of what we're doing this year as an executive team. But for me personally, it became clear to me last year that once you're out of the campus bubble, it's very difficult, unless you're a massive keynote, like I know everybody is in this room, to get back into that bubble and keep fighting your space. So town student engagement is a massive one for me. I'm sure, well, I hope some of you have seen that we've expanded the Better Decisions campaign by doing #GoodMorning, delivering bacon butties to everybody after a heavy FND. So that's kind of the first step towards that process, and it's something that I'm going to be working with quite closely with Jo on throughout the rest of the year. So the next point is diversifying volunteer development. So this is quite an important one to me. I'll come to intersectionality in just a second, but predominantly with my Welfare and Diversity Committee, 15 members, all fantastic. But if I could just tell you a bit of a story, last year on the Welfare and Diversity Committee there were 2 standout characters. They were both absolutely brilliant. However, because only one of them made the conscious effort to be aware of what employability skills they were developing and how they could actually put everything they were doing down onto their CV, one of them went on to work for a massive national charity, the other one is still searching for a job. Okay, so that's kind of what I want to tackle this year. I want to make sure that, as well as the committee, the whole reps are aware of what skills they're developing, the fact that they are getting so much more than just being a representative on their whole committee and being on a committee. I want them to be able to walk into an interview and know exactly what skills they've developed through running their own campaigns, running their own events, and managing subcommittees and separate teams. Intersectionality is a big one, again, across the union, but for me in welfare, this is making sure that our associations are working together. So obviously I have the Ethnic Minorities Network, the Women's Network, LGBT Plus Association, Heads Up, which is the mental health awareness, and we now have the Mature Students Association, who sit under kind of my umbrella this year. It's making sure that we're working with those associations to create that intersectionality, as well as getting the sexual health coordinator, the disability officer, and the rest of the W&D committee involved in those plans. So intersectionality that's evident to all the students as well. So my final point is to substantiate existing campaigns and initiatives. So it's kind of going to be quite behind the scenes for me this year in that sense, because I really want to develop the policies, procedures and the training that we have behind all of these fantastic campaigns that we've got. So if I use the example of Play with Pride for you right now, Play with Pride social media, all the multimedia that was released last year absolutely took off, and I'm sure you agree with me on that one. It was nationally recognised, the NUS were talking about it, it was absolutely fantastic. So massive well done to last year's team for doing that. But during handover, myself and Luke realised that actually the content of the campaign wasn't as strong as the campaign itself. So there wasn't actually any specific reporting procedures for LGBT plus students who experience homophobic behaviour. There wasn't any research which we'd conducted to look into the experiences of LGBT students. So that is what I want to do this year, alongside Luke and alongside Jamie Hooper, who is the ASA's Equality and Diversity Manager. I want to make sure that we are developing the policies, the procedures, and making that very forward-facing and clear to the students, so that those who are actually experiencing the uncomfortable behaviours that may occur in sports teams and exercise environments, so that those students are aware of what they need to do and what processes there are available to them. So as well as this, exporting good practice. We've had a couple of students' unions email us asking if they can use the Play with Pride poem in their video and things like that, which is absolutely brilliant to see. But we don't just want to give them a poem, we want to give them a pack. We want to make sure that they have a package which they can take to their universities, their students' unions, their athletic unions, and really make sure that they are impacting the student experience rather than just getting a few likes on Facebook. It's really about the core content for me this year and the behind the scenes, building everything up so that over years to come, it's really solid, there's a great foundation, and it can continue to excel as much as it has done over recent years. So final point, Nightline. Everybody knows about Nightline, right? Yeah, cool. Okay, so currently it works 8 till 8 Monday, Wednesday and Friday nights. We want to move that to every night of the week this year. We've just trained up our next batch of volunteers. There's a larger pool of volunteers to access, so we should be able to do more shifts. But this, in the terms of substantiating the initiative, is about expanding it. So making sure that students are more aware of it, having more of a presence in freshers was definitely a big thing for them this year. But also making sure we have a presence for students in town, and actually we are now also promoting the service to Loughborough College students and to students in London as well. So it's really about making sure that we're building the foundations of that, making it accessible to everybody and making sure it's clear what it is. So sorry, I've got dry mouth, I ran through that so fast. So those are my 3 key points, and to kind of bring it back together again, there's 3 key words which I'm looking for at the end of the year for people to say that I developed the section and I did it in that way. So this one, accessibility, obviously making sure that absolutely everyone can get involved, they know how to get involved and they know who to go to about getting involved. The second one, employability, making sure that everybody who is involved and wants to be involved knows what they can get from the section, knows what they're gaining personally and as their team development skills as well. And finally, for the substantiation is the continuity. I want to make sure that the work I do this year makes it easier and easier for the people to follow after me. It's coming into its 4th year, I want it to be its 40th year. So I want to make sure that we have as much ready for my successor as possible. Thanks for listening.